Hi there, I have a slightly different video for you this week. I often get asked in the comments and on my Instagram about the sorts of things that I do on my workshops and in my membership group that I have. So what I thought would be quite a nice thing to do would be to actually set up one of the tutorial sessions that I always do every month on my membership group. So you can watch that and see the sorts of things that we talk about and what we get up to. On my membership group, there's a new project every month, and it's always a practical project, so everyone's working towards a particular theme. Throughout the month, everyone will post their work onto the group so I can see it and everyone else who's on there can see it too. And towards the end of the month, I invite a few people to join me on a Zoom call, and we do what I call a spotlight tutorial. So the idea behind the spotlight tutorials is to use that small group of people, that selected group of people, to start a discussion that benefits everyone on the group. So when you watch the tutorials back, it isn't just about those individual pieces of work. There's always common themes and common issues that come up that helps everybody. For this video, I did precisely that. I invited a few people to join me on a Zoom call. We had a really good look at their work and a great chat about it. So obviously this is a bit longer than my usual videos here on YouTube, but I do encourage you to watch it all the way through because we had some really interesting discussions throughout the whole session. So I really hope you enjoy watching this and it gives you a bit of an idea about part of what we do on the membership group. Obviously, if you're interested in finding out a bit more about it, you can follow the link here that's on the screen, and it's free for the first month, so you can try it out and see how you go. Okay, let's get on. So Libby, these are work here from, you got a couple of posts here from your weather diary. Oh, quite a few posts from your weather diary. And
no, that's all.
Oh, that's from before. Okay, that one's from before. Yeah, okay.
Past projects.
That's from, yeah, okay, that's from before. Yeah, okay. So yeah, how are you finding it? Because this is the current project for this month, was the idea of doing a weather diary as a way to just get have a nice simple theme to work with, because I think it's quite broad. That's what I quite liked about it when I was thinking about doing this. It's quite a broad theme, but it has a focus. Immediately you've got some kind of focus and you can just start thinking about it. So how have you found it?
It's just absolutely up my street. I really am enjoying it very much.
And these look good.
So I'm literally treating it as a diary. So pretty much every day, whether it's I'm in my studio, I'm looking out the window, or I'm out for a walk, or taking the dog out, anything along those lines, I just spend a short amount of time responding to the conditions, the weather. So today it's extremely stormy, which is great.
This is not today, this one, I don't think, is it?
This was done closer to the start of the month.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That was actually
just go through them. Yeah.
That was inside. That was from my window of my studio.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like the sort of day you'd want to be out in.
No, it wasn't.
I have to say, it's pretty dark and rainy.
Yeah, it was very stormy. So I live quite close to the River Tay in Scotland.
Okay.
And is very close by. So what it does is it pulls in the weather systems down the river, which is fantastic. And that's what I was responding to, which was brilliant.
It's lovely. Yeah, I mean, you really get the sense of the distant, when you can see a long way, you can see the weather coming at you sometimes, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get that real sense of it, over there there's stuff happening. Stuff happening, and I want to keep away from it. Sorry.
While I'm safe in my studio, I can see
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are you using here? Is it just charcoal? Is it just a charcoal and so you've got some white pencil or something here as well? Yeah.
It's one of your favorite materials, compressed charcoal.
The compressed charcoal, yeah.
I love the stuff. It's just
brilliant. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's very. Go on, carry on.
It lends itself to a lot of expression, is what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's very expressive material, because it's such a loose kind of material on the surface. You can really push it around, can't you? And you've been kind of just rubbing into it by the looks of it. Is it just kind of, or is that just smudging, just some smudging with your fingers, or is it actually rubber?
A bit of both. It was smudging in with my fingers, because I really love to fingers involved in the materials, and then also an eraser. It was a sharp edged eraser. I just used it on
Okay.
that.
So here you're using like the eraser to get the
Yeah.
marks. Yeah, really nice.
Libby,
Yes.
I have a quick question, because I've been following all your weather. I mean, before this, you've been doing a lot of this sort of thing, and I'm curious to know, when you're outside and you're doing your these skylines, or these clouds and the skies, do you do it without looking at your page? Are you sort of just getting inspiration from as you're watching, or do you look and then go back down to your paper? I've always been curious.
It's a bit of everything. It just depends what's happening at that moment in time. So I can be out into the landscape in Scotland, Northern Highland Perthshire somewhere, and then I just simply get my sketchbook, compressed charcoal and other materials, and it's about responding to what's happening in front of me. So often I'm so enraptured by what's going on within the sky, I'll just not really realize what's happening on my page. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And and what I find from that is that the marks that I generate are highly expressive. They're full of energy, which is what I really want. And so, and then other times I'll do pure blind drawing. In other words, I am not looking at my page at all. I'm looking at the forms that are created in the skies, and then that magnetic dimension to the land. And then other times, I realize what's happening on my page suddenly, and then respond to that as well. So it could be, for example, in this particular sketch, the weather was coming in from the west and then heading south and then off to the east a little bit. So I follow the direction that the cloud forms are going in.
So these marks, so you're making marks which are actually talking to you about the direction and the weather's moving in. Now that's great, because there's a nice way, because we were talking about in the previous project, we're talking about how you can get a sense of time and movement into your work, and that really works for that as well, because they're very personal. I think these kind of sketchbooks are really personal things. This is you're saying about how you're kind of just getting into it and being making the marks directly in response to what's happening around you, without overthinking it too much. I think that's a really nice thing in a little sketchbook like this, because I know we're looking at it and and viewing them, but normally this kind of work would be very personal to you. So having that sense of just the idea of the time that you take to do them, and the way that you get actually using the marks, not just for depicting things like you do with making pictures, but actually making marks which have a little bit more meaning and a very personal meaning to you. Because when you look at something like these, I think there's a different response to the when the person who's making the work has a different response to the people who are looking at it. We can think of it in one way, but you look at it and it conjures up the memories of being there.
Very much.
That makes it a lot more personal than it is to us. They are definitely giving off the feeling of the wild landscape, but to you it goes a little bit deeper, I think.
Yeah, very much. So when I look at that, it takes me right back to that moment. You were talking about time there, so it takes me back to that moment in time, which I actually hadn't really appreciated until you had just mentioned it. So yes, and I can. So it takes me straight back there. And you've mentioned that too before, actually, in your course that I took part in, about time and how the sketches can pull you straight back to that place, which is, I find, actually quite a fascinating dimension.
Well, I think it's a very useful thing about a sketch, and sketchbooks in general, is that they're not just about recording things. They're about putting something down that you notice, and so that the way that you use them is to refer back to them. Sure, sometimes you can refer back to them for colours and shapes and textures and lines, but also exactly that they put you back where you were in your head, so that when you're painting in the studio, you're using that reference to conjure up the memories, so that you can get some of that emotion down on the canvas or board or wherever it is you're working on in the studio. And that's definitely how I use my sketchbooks. When I'm sketching, I use them for exactly that, to remind me of places. And you always remember what they are, don't you? No matter how old they are.
Yeah. And can I just quickly go back to what you were just saying? Actually, that's really very reassuring to hear that, because sometimes there are occasional moments when I look at my sketchbooks and I think to myself, oh, I'm not so sure if I'm brave enough to really put into what's in my sketches then into my paintings. So to hear you say that, I find that
but why
actually
wouldn't you?
reassuring. Yeah,
why,
but it's
why?
that
Can I
thing
just-
that,
yeah.
sorry, Claire.
I was just going to say, can I say, I love the sense of space. So although there's a lot of mark making and, you really get the feel for what it was like, I also love the space, and I find that really challenging to have. It's almost like there's a breathing space. There's all this stuff happening, but there's a feeling of just that sort of feeling of space. I can't describe it particularly well in words, but it's sort of soothing amongst all the turmoil.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's true. But if you think about going back to the idea of the sketchbooks as well, the purpose behind them, you seem to be able to be very free in your sketchbooks, and I think that's why they're so useful. Because in my work, and sometimes I think my sketchbooks are my work. They're it. That's the thing, and you're always trying to find ways to recreate that kind of freedom in your, what you would call your finished work. Like Claire was saying, the sense of space and movement and that kind of energy that's in there. Trying to recreate that in your studio work, I always find, is the biggest challenge. Because you're doing these kind of a big painting or something like the one that's behind you, and you kind of think, why can't I get this? Why can't I get it to be like this sketch? That sense of freedom. So always looking for that. Always looking for ways to recreate the processes that you go through in your sketchbooks. I think sometimes in your studio work. So not to overwork. This is why I always work in a series of paintings at the same time, so that you're not just slaving over one thing the whole time. So you do have so almost like the paintings laid out in front of me are almost like pages in a sketchbook. So you can be free. I can be freer with them while I'm doing them in the studio, and try and retain some of that energy that you get when you're just not trying to make art. You're just trying to just make marks that say something to you, where you're to get something down on the paper that says something about what's out there.
So I have a question for you, Lewis. So Claire hit on something about the space. And this stemmed from the positive and negative spaces that we explored a few months ago.
One of the previous projects.
Which I found very valuable. And I'm trying to get that sense of space into my current paintings. So I sometimes find that when I'm actually painting, I can lose that sense of the feeling I had when I was working in the sketchbooks. So it's that transition across to the paintings, getting that space in. So what do you do in terms of not recreating that sense, or the feeling of when you were sketching? How do you reconnect it if you feel disconnected? Do you see what I mean?
It is, like I was saying, it is, it's one of the hardest things. But I think one of the best things I do is, like I was just saying, is to have lots happening, so that you can keep it light. It's like keeping that sense of playfulness in your work, and having lots of different kind of processes that you can use. Sort of not techniques so much, but I like to use collage and let some paint kind of just throw it on and drip and run and all that kind of stuff, and have a really, really good play around. Keep the sense of playfulness in the studio work, because I think a lot of the time it isn't actually about the work itself. It's not about what you're doing. It's how you're thinking about it, I think, sometimes, because when you're working on a canvas in your studio, suddenly something switches in your brain. It's just about, okay, now this is proper painting now. It's got to be proper. You know what I mean? It's like, it's in your sketchbook, you could all be kind of all light and playful. And so it's like, this is great. I'm just going to make some marks and make some marks here, make some marks there. And it's, and then you can move on to the next one, can't you? So, but when you've got, when you've got a big canvas and it's all, glaring at you all white and perfect, you think, what can I do on that that's going to be better than it already is? It's like that you put that pressure on yourself, don't you, to try and make something good. But really what you need to do is kind of forget about all that and just try and enjoy doing it, just enjoy the process of pushing the paint around and seeing what happens, and have 2 or 3 on the go, so you're not just focusing all the time on the one painting. That, I mean, that really helps. I mean, that's what even when I'm working on big paintings, I did a whole series of quite large paintings for recent exhibition, and they were like 4 foot square, not massive, but plenty big enough. But I still had 4 of them on the go at the same time, so I could go do a bit on this one and do a bit on that one and do a bit on that, not like a production line, but just so I could just do a little bit on this one and keep it light, and then carry those ideas into the next one. And the idea of carrying your ideas from one painting to the next they develop, and then you kind of go back to the beginning or spot something in the one that's in the middle that you can push forward. So I mean those sorts of things, those sorts of processes, that's what helps me to try and get closer to my sketch work, my sketch work in my finished paintings. So, but they're terrific. Yeah, they're terrific. They look really good. Maybe we just have a quick look at these, and then we can move on, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really nice. And I can see you're trying out different things as well. This is really good. Trying out different ways of putting the material on.
Yes.
Really nice.
Yeah, this is bonfire charcoal.
That's a nice one.
A nice hunk of bonfire charcoal I found. And
is it right? Okay.
Instead, which I found really lovely and smudgy, and right. They're really cut into it. Lovely.
But that works really well with this nice sharp blue that you've got running through here as well. I really like that. It's really crisp, isn't it? Contrast and those things. So yeah. So these are also from the weather diary project. Yeah. Okay. So do you want to tell me a little bit about what you're
first
doing?
of all, I was 2 things. One is I had to stop myself thinking about just the sky. So I interpret weather as just sky. So I spent quite a few days actually taking photographs of the sky, then realised actually it wasn't the sky. And it was the effect of stuff around. So that was the switch. And the other thing was, I realised I spend a lot of time looking down when I'm sketching. So I do a lot of water and the banks and the trees, but sort of look down. So it was an interesting thing for me. So I had to sort of think about looking up and observing things above a line. And I used, I've got an octopus sketchbook that I'd done quite a lot of ink work in already. And because I was a bit sort of stuck as to what I did. So I thought, well, I know I'll use that as a basis. So underneath this is a lot of black ink and white.
Okay, right, yeah. So this was already there, was it?
Already
there. Kind of the black ink, and you've kind of worked over. Because we've talked about doing that sort of thing before, haven't we, in previous projects, about having sketchbook pages which have got some scrap on them or some collage or something, so you're not working on a pristine surface. It gets you going straight away, doesn't it? But
and they were there, and I'd got stuck on doing them anyway, so it was quite a long time ago. I thought, where am I going to do this? And I thought, I know I can use this. So that's actually
it adds a little bit of punch of contrast as well, doesn't it, having that black under there as well, so which is nice. And I used a mixture because it was ink and underneath, and with a variety of different implements and things. So I used woodies and pastels and sort of chalk pastels and oil pastels, and Posca pen,
So basically a
Yeah,
variety.
there's all sorts of things going on in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I don't know what an octopus sketchbook is. What's an octopus sketchbook?
It's an octopus sketchbook is a sketchbook that's got pages that are like that. So they fold
Oh, right,
into four.
like a concertina type thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
like a
okay,
concertina,
right.
but they're only 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, okay. So is
Yeah,
each page, and is it, if you made that, or is that something you've bought?
No, something it's a sea white one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And it's actually, and is each page fold out, does it?
Each page folds out. It's
Oh,
a bit
right,
awkward
okay.
to use, to be fair, because you sort of get limited by 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, 4. If that makes sense.
Right, right.
So I'd sort of worked on them initially a while ago, just thinking about what I was going to do with it. So this was quite a good opportunity then to layer some stuff on top.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, they're great. I really like the mixture of the materials, particularly in this one. And I think, you know, the different types of marks you're making as well, the different directions of marks. I really like these kind of strong marks up here in the left, where you kind of really feel the sense of the kind of it dragging down, you know, the sky kind of dragging down into the land sort of area. Look, but I think that works really well. You know, it's going back to what you were saying before about the, you know, looking up. When you think about the weather, you think about looking up, don't you? But it's something I always say to the people who come on my live workshops. If we're sitting outside and I say to them, okay, look out over there and you see the horizon line, and it says you have to remind yourself that the sky doesn't start at the horizon line. Because there's this kind of idea that the sky is up there. You get, you know, it's land, horizon. Oh, there's the sky.
Yeah.
And
that, so yeah, that was the other
that's
thing.
not where it starts. I always say the sky starts at your feet. We've got to remember the sky starts at your feet.
Yeah. So that was part of that. So it was actually quite, I haven't produced as much as I hope to do yet, but it's something that I want to carry on with. So I was thinking about how I could just carry on, you know, doing it sort of not quite like a weather diary, but actually taking the chance, because they don't take that long either. Then it's not like it's something that you have to really think about. You can just take, a bit like Libby was saying, you can just take the feel of the moment, and within a few minutes you can make a variety of marks. It's quite exciting, isn't it, in terms of doing it like that?
Yeah, and again, it's the attitude, isn't it? It's your attitude towards it, I think, sometimes that can come across in your sketches in a way that you want to develop that in your studio work, but because you're thinking about it as a quick, light kind of thing to do, your creativity is kind of released, isn't it? And so because I'll try this, I'll see what happens, doesn't matter if it doesn't work, I'll do another one. So you got that sense of that you know, liberated creative kind of thought process, and that's the sort of thing that you need to kind of hang on to when you're in the studio. You kind of remind yourselves that it's you don't have to be making, you know, incredible meaningful things the whole time. It can be quite casual and light, and I think the meaning it kind of emerges. I think you know, ideas grow, and the you know, if you do want to have a kind of deeper, you know, purpose to your work, I think you should let it evolve from the work. I always think that's the way around to do it, rather than have an idea that, oh, I've got to make this painting and it's going to be about this, it's going to be really deep and it's going to be really meaningful, but then you're kind of imposing things on it the whole time. Whereas if you go out and you do the work and then you let the ideas just kind of grow in a kind of natural way while you're doing it, then I think there's a deep, you know, it's more personal and it becomes more deeply interesting to you. And then you know, you can always think that you know, you've got to interest yourself when you're working, because if you don't interest yourself, how can anyone else be interested in it? So you never want. So I was looking at, I think, would I like it if I saw that somewhere? Would I like it? Is that the kind of work that I'd like to look at?
And it's happening to me now, really, looking at this, but it's tell
me about these.
Particular one I was trying to catch, it was the sunset, so the sky was very banded,
right?
But I got this texture still to work on, and it was over the rooftop, so I sort of put something in like that. But I don't know whether you know, I'm trying to work away more from more abstracting things, and I'm sort of drawn, if I get a bit insecure, I'm drawn back into it, right? So I sort of thought, well, I'll see how this goes anyway. So I use colors that I wouldn't normally, and this is paint.
I think the colors are terrific and the paint's terrific. I think there could do with more variety. You know, I always talk about
Yeah.
variety of marks, and I think what these might be missing is some drawn marks, some line marks, because in your previous ones, you've got a real mixture of marks in here, and I think you've got some strong colors. You know, I know they're more kind of spread out because you've got the banding, because that's what's in front of you. You want to use that. But I think having this mixture of these little circular marks, and like I was talking about, these very directional marks here as well, I think that's what these pieces may need, something like that. I think if you were to work over them or work into them with some something that can make a slightly finer mark, I think it would add a bit of direction. You know, they're really good for movement, those kind of marks, and also for variety as well. So because although you've got lots of different things going on, a lot of the marks are sort of a similar size, if you see what I mean. So you've got your big brush marks, and then the washy stuff, and then the splashy stuff. So if you had that extra element, I think it would really lift them. But the colours are terrific, and you know, the mood is there. You know, but they just need that little bit of red there that you've got there. Is just because it's a slightly thinner kind of mark, it just sort of lifts it a little bit. So more of that sort of thing, maybe.
It's really helpful seeing this on the screen as well in this way. So it's sort of, again, it's just a bit more removed from actually having the personal thing in front of you. I can look at it slightly more objectively. So that's really helpful. I
mean, it can often help, you know, taking photos of your work and viewing them on a screen, or even on your phone or something, because it does. It's like that old thing about you know, if you've got a portrait, you look at it as if you're working on it, you look at it in a mirror, and you can immediately see what's wrong with it, can't you? Because, you know, faces, when they're back to front, it's really obvious that there's something, the eye's in the wrong place. And it's a similar sort of thing, I think. You get that slight remove.
So if I was to do this in terms of question, so if I was to do this in and both of these were looking through. When I didn't do this outside, I've not been able to be outside in the same way. But if I was to take this again and do this, but maybe outside and do some more, I think I've got the same issues as you were talking about, and some same issues, but actually then translating that back, especially as I pre-prepared the sheets. You know, it's almost like, wow, that's a real. There's no way I could know how to replicate this. I can't replicate it, but I need to get the feel of that. And I think that's always a challenge, isn't it? About how you bring it back and you use those ideas. So that's always going to.
Do you mean doing this kind of work again? But was the washy stuff underneath? Was that already there then? That was it something you've worked over, right?
The marks, I've gone over it.
That's easy to do, though, isn't it? You could just get some pieces of paper laid out in your studio and just kind of randomly kind of work on them. You know, with that kind of washy stuff, and just let them dry, and then and then you know, just treat them as if they're found. Fake found. But
I know what I've done with you know, I said about Libby about the sense of space. Mine are always, I always find that a massive challenge, actually not filling the page or, you know, stripping it back. The only way that I found to be able to do it is I just take them outside and I sort of put spray paint on them. So I actually blank out areas. That's how I've done it with bits of collage, that sort of negative space type of thing.
So you're masking, no, it's a good way of doing it, because it's you're kind of in control of it, but it's also a bit random, isn't it? And I think that's always a good thing to have, I think, to have that be on the edge between in control and out of control. Terrific. Is that okay? We might move on. Is that all right? Yeah. Thank you for that. I think. Do you think you would work into these more, or are you going to?
I think
maybe do some new ones.
Well, both probably. So because having looked at the first ones again, I prefer those anyway. But I think there is some merit in these. So I need.
I totally agree, and it's always good to have different. Try different things. You don't want everything to end up looking the same. So you've got these. This is great. You can work on that, and you can work on the other ones, and they have a different character. You don't want everything to be the same.
No. Thank you.
Terrific, brilliant, well done, thank you. So we'll move on to Carolyn.
I find it interesting that we're doing this weather diary, and it's people from all over the world, so you get to see
Yes.
where
Yes.
everyone's living, and
Yeah,
they're
that's
also very
brilliant. Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of that when I was doing it. I was thinking, because I know I have some people here in the UK, but there's quite a lot of people in the States and Canada. And I've also got people over in Australia as well. So it's going to be really, really different. So yeah. So I'm looking out my window and say, you want to stay indoors. It's horrible out there.
Yeah.
It's February in the UK. It's raining and cold. And I says, no, it's lovely actually. Yeah.
Compared to elsewhere where it's minus subarctic temperatures.
Yeah.
I look at your space when you're saying, oh, it's awful here, and I say to myself, wow, I'd love to be in that.
It was actually quite nice here today, even though we're still in February. It was quite nice. It was quite mild today. So hey, terrific. So Carolyn, you seem to have done quite a lot for this project.
Yeah, I did.
Just having a quick scroll through.
Not thrilled with all of it, but yeah, I tried to do different things.
Well, I think it's really good if you're not thrilled with all of it that you've still shared it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really, that's a good thing to do, because I think you don't, in a group like this, you get the benefit, don't you? The benefit is to show your work to people and talk about it. That's kind of the point of it, isn't it? Is to not just from me, but other people in the group as well. So I just have a quick look. What would you like to talk about? Do you want to?
Well, one thing that I wanted
I probably won't be able to go through all of it, because there's quite a lot of it. So maybe we'll pick
not.
a couple of different pieces.
But what's interesting, I find, is I'm sort of terrified of the sketchbook in some ways, because I feel like it's so final, even though I'm supposed to be able to play in there. And so what I ended up doing a lot of the time this month was working with the jelly plate. And then
is that what this is here? Is this a jelly?
Yeah, those are offcuts from jelly prints that I made.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to express, I think that day was minus 39 or something. I can't remember what it was. I wanted to, and it's so still because it's so cold, that I just wanted to capture that the feeling of being cold. And so I chose those 3 strips, and then I kind of just put them together. I don't think I did much to them. I may have added a couple of spots, but I didn't really do much. I just put those together as a triptych, I guess.
Yeah. So just for anyone who might not know this, so the jelly plates are mono printing, as it does a lot of, you can use it for mono prints, reusable. It is like jelly, isn't it? Like, it's kind of, I've never actually done it myself. I quite fancy it, actually. I quite fancy giving it a go, but I've never actually done it myself.
It's very freeing, and it's very you end up with happy accidents. And I have trouble.
Well, it's just what we were saying about being in control and slightly out of control at the same time. Yeah,
that's what I like about it. I think for me, especially as a new artist, I'm not able to let go the same way that some people can. So that was probably less successful. But again, it was about the cold and the sun.
One.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that one.
It's chilly. That's a nice one. I like. I was going to say with this one, maybe it's quite uniform over the whole surface, so maybe that's why it doesn't quite have the punch of maybe some of the others. But I really like that it's got a really nice atmosphere about it. And then kind of flipping through to this one, is this actually the same piece that you've?
No, because
this mark is very similar. Is it the same one that's been worked over? Added to it. I think.
Yes, I think one of them I cropped.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like I wasn't sure about the whole piece, but anyway, instead of separating the pieces like I did in the first one, I kind of put them together in this one. I didn't leave spaces between them, so. Oh,
okay. So you got separate. Okay, so separate pieces. Again, but you've collaged them together more. So, and I think, I was looking at this down here really, and how you've added this extra piece in, and it changed because it's quite horizontal with the way that you've got these kind of spans. I think having this piece here, which means it looks more vertical. It has a sort of vertical piece to it, and I think it just has a different sort of dynamic to the composition. But again, the tones, the atmosphere is really coming across, I think.
And I think that was primarily because I look out my window and it seems pretty much the same. I mean, I look for be windy so I can do wind, be sunny,
right? And, anything different.
It just always seems just cold and icy,
Well, I guess then, if it's not changing, if the weather isn't changeable enough, maybe it's a case of experimenting with how you can depict what you've got in different ways. Try as many different ways of doing it as possible, which is something I think I've said in the project video, was to you could do use found materials, and using collage and jelly plate. You could do some with paint, some with just in your sketchbook, just drawing in your sketchbook like Libby was doing. So just mix it up, and then just let those ideas kind of, because when you're doing lots of different things, some things will be more successful in your mind than others, but you don't know what they are. Sometimes you don't know what it's going to be until you've seen it. You know what it's going to be. It's very difficult to project onto a piece of paper what you're going to get, isn't it? Particularly when you're doing you want this kind of randomness, you want a bit of randomness, so it's very difficult to sort of pre-imagine what's going to happen a lot of the time. So but just keeping that sense of playfulness, trying different things, the print here, but maybe you could use like stenciling and all that sort of stuff, and just try to lots of different materials.
Well, it's interesting because the first one I did, I had taken a picture of a tree with snow on it. It was just so lovely. I just loved that.
I remember seeing this.
I'm not sure.
Really nice.
I'm not sure how great it is, but what I wanted to do was marry my photography with I played around with the charcoal. I added some charcoal and Neocolor crayons, and then some white paint. But it is more realistic, obviously. But I just wanted to play around with that to see what would happen.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought that was such a nice, creative way to play. I want to applaud that. Yeah, it was just. Who cares how it turned out? It was just such a creative thought and a creative play. I mean, that's what the diary's about, right?
Well, I was thinking you could probably do some more. I think if you just did you just do this one in this?
No, I've got a few actually.
Yeah. Because I think you get an idea like that, you can just run with it for a bit. I mean, it may not be what you end up doing forever, but it doesn't have to be, does it? You could spend a day just doing that and nothing else. Then the next day you move on to something different, because there's many you try as many different things as possible, and every now and again something will stick and kind of take you to a different sort of level. I always find that when you're painting, you kind of you struggle for a while. I always think that you kind of struggle. You go on a sort of, if you imagine a graph, it's like a straight line, and then you just go up a little bit, and you think, yes, you found a little discovery, and it's like, yes, that was really good. That's what I've been looking for. And then he just goes on this flat line again for another few months, and then you go, oh no, hang on, I've got another good idea. So that's what it's like for me anyway.
It's nice to hear that.
Go along and then up a little bit, and it's not like a curve, a nice straight curve.
It's encouraging.
It's like just this series of plateaus. But just trying different things helps that, though, doesn't it? Because you never know when you try something out and you say, I'll give this a go, and hang on a minute, that's interesting, I like that.
So I ended up doing that actually. Later on, I took one of the jelly prints I made, I think, and I think I actually printed on it. Is that it? Oh, I know one. The ones I did directly on the jelly plate. Probably just after that. No, next one. No, next one. Sorry. Those ones.
Yes.
I've never painted.
Yeah. Okay.
I've never painted directly on the jelly plate. So this is a couple of passes. I just took the paint and I painted on the jelly plate like it was a canvas. So, but I added a lot of water. So it, in this one, you see the sky is a bit watery there. Yeah. In the other one, the water this paint ended up sort of bunching up. And so what you see at the top, it looks like mountains, but actually that was the effect of the water on the paint.
Yeah, where it's kind of separated a little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that was kind of different. I've never done that before, so I thought it was kind of fun.
It'd be quite good to do. You could do a whole load of this kind of thing, but then use the prints as collage pieces, couldn't you? To either start pieces of work or to collage into other pieces of work, because you're getting that, real sense of mixture of different things happening, and there is that randomness what we've been talking about. So it'd be really useful to do that kind of thing. Just have them, just do a whole load of them, and just rather than trying to think of them as pieces of work as such, you could say, right, this is material that I'm going to use in other pieces of work. Whether it's cropping them or into your sketchbook or just tearing them up. You can always sort of tear into them randomly and see what you get. That when you're looking for something to add into other pieces of work.
Yes, absolutely.
But, because that's lovely. I like all this. Down here, and this is terrific, this mixture of this kind of gold ochre kind of color with the more muted colors around it. I think it looks really nice. So,
thank you.
Yeah, and this is probably the same
kind
of thing again.
It was a jelly print, and I just painted over it. I think that green, or I don't remember what the color was, but and then I just took the pencil or the charcoal pencil and added those lines, sort of those black
yeah.
So that's what I did. I took the jelly print and then I worked on top of that.
Even though it's slightly different, it's kind of what we were saying to Claire just now. It's quite a lot of these really big expansive marks, but just having a little bit of drawing kind of lifts it up. I think if those little marks, these little charcoal marks weren't there, I think it would feel a lot flatter. Okay, so that's terrific. I think if that's okay, Carolyn, we'll move on. So great stuff, and it's really nice to see. You've done quite a bit as well, haven't you? Tell me about it. Yeah.
So I think for me, like the most freeing work that I can do is on the cartridge, right?
On the paper,
the journal for me is difficult in the sense that I still have to keep it.
Well, all these projects, they're not meant to be that rigorous. They're much more about just it's like just giving you an idea, just giving an idea, a short little project theme at the beginning of the month, just to say, okay, why don't you have a think about this month, and you can spend as much time, even though I called it a diary, you can spend as much time or as little time on it as you want.
You calling it a diary flipped a switch for me. And it made it so much more freeing. And so I set up in my studio just a little area where I had a book, and I just made a page a day, and if I couldn't get in there, I took photos. And so I just kept a diary of the weather, which was great. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, it's looking good. I mean, the first one looks terrific.
So the one below that, those crazy ones below.
This.
Yeah, just below, those were on cartridge, and those were the first ones I did of the weather. So, oh no, those
they can't be, because you posted them before I did the project.
They were. Yeah,
they must be the last ones from the movement project. Yeah, really nice. And what are you using? This is acrylic. This is acrylic.
Yeah, that was more of a that wasn't really part of the diary, but that was one at kind of at the end of the movement project where I had been working on it for a while. That's all acrylic and just probably some dry materials, crayon, and just
it's a good. I think this one's got quite a lot of the things that I tend to bang on about. You hear me going on about all the time, using the variety of marks, getting good tones, variety of tones, big marks, small marks, and really mixing it up. And I think that's got quite a lot of that stuff in it. And I quite like the layering that you're getting with this, this being underneath, and then having kind of done this kind of swoosh of a brush mark over the top. I think that adds this kind of illusion of depth, in space, without using, drawn marks, drawn perspective and all that kind of stuff. I think that there's quite a lot of space in this, which is suggested, which I think is rather nice. So yeah, terrific.
Quite a lot of layers in there.
Yeah. And what about these ones? Let's have a look here. Yeah, that's a nice one. So tell me about these.
The first bits of the diary on that day. That was I'm under, I don't know, 1,000 centimeters of snow.
So this is all snow.
That's the backyard.
This is you down here buried under the snow.
Yeah, pretty much backyard.
Yeah, well, I think the sense of the cold comes through.
Good.
Yeah.
That was an old panel, and so I just started, and that's the notebook.
This was an old. Okay, so you're working
panel.
over something that had a load of stuff under it. Is that what all these big brush marks are? Were they dry? That dry paint? Yeah.
That was all the dry paint from another thing, and I really enjoyed putting the blue over it and realizing, oh, that'll all settle in there just real nice, like a big old pile of snow. So
yeah. Well, that washy paint over the top of big dry brush marks is something that I actually try and get that into my paintings, deliberately, rather than finding it. I use those kind of scrubby bristle brushes to kind of make big brush marks and then let them dry, and then when it's dry, I kind of wash over it with some thin paint, whether that's acrylic or oil. It doesn't really make a lot of difference, but but it's really nice where you get the paint that kind of all settles into the little grooves, and again it creates a sense of depth in the paint, the paint surface. So you get this kind of it kind of works in two ways. It's kind of like creates an interesting surface, but also creates an illusion of space.
Yeah, one of the things that you taught us was that, and I love that color, that mixing of that Prussian with the black. It's one of my favorite things, and
is that what this is? Is that what this is?
Yeah,
that kind of mixture of Prussian
and it's all around me with these mountains that we have here, and when it's gray all the time, so it's just a perfect mixture.
And it's very adjustable as well, isn't it? You can have. If you need it darker, you just
and that's actually just dirty water where I leave my brushes. This water
that's the best paint. Dirty water,
dirty water. So I just use my dirty water brush and I just drip it on there, and then I go upstairs and come back in the morning and see what happens.
Good. What about this one?
This was just a sketch where at the end of the day where I had paint left over, and I have this notebook. It's really crappy paper, and I just had to play, and then I added some pencil marks in the end, just to like capture the snow and the mood. And I really didn't. Again, like it's a diary at this point to me. It's not even a sketchbook, so just trying to capture.
It's just ideas, isn't it? Just things that you're thinking about.
I'm really trying to figure out how to capture atmosphere. Really, and I'm really trying to work on that, because here where I live now, we have fog, we have clouds, and we have inversion, and sometimes they all happen in the same day.
When you're working in this way, doing these kind of very quick pieces of work, it doesn't, getting them down on the paper is the most important thing, really. But you don't need to worry about what you're going to do with it or what it means or anything like that, because you can often, I'll go back through old sketchbooks and find things that are years old that I didn't think anything of at the time, but suddenly, a couple of years later or something, and looking through something, it just sort of resonates and go, oh, that's what I was looking for. So sometimes the usefulness of things like this isn't always apparent to you. When you're doing them, even, there might be, there's no reason why they can't be, but they don't have to be. So that's why I always think sketchbooks are such good things to have, because you keeping it. Because the way I work with lots of rough bits of paper and tearing things up and then putting them in my sketchbook. But if I didn't put them in my sketchbook, it would just end up being just scraps on the floor, or end up in the bin. But sometimes you keep something because you kind of think, oh, that's sort of interesting, I'll stick it in my book. And you never know when it's going to become something that you go, I need that mark that I've made there a couple of years ago. I need it in this big painting that I'm doing now. And that's the beauty of them, really. You can be very casual about it and not worry about what it means to you, because it may become apparent later on. So these are very different.
A lot more color in these.
Yeah. Well, the bottom is where I landed. So I've been working on this one, not that one.
Not this one.
In the comments.
Oh, right, down here. Okay. Right. Okay.
I've been working on this one since before I left Park City. So last summer.
Right.
And I'm tired of it.
Yeah.
But pleased with where it landed.
What's
but I think
what size
I
is it?
I was watching, I don't know, one of your YouTubes, and you were teaching a group of students, and one of the things that you've mentioned to us in this particular YouTube, Lewis, was like, a painting is done when it's done. Like, don't be in a hurry. I think there's like, just keep at it, keep having to play, and so here we are.
Well, I think this is where having lots of things on the go comes into comes in, because you can if you got something like this and that there's something there but you're not quite sure what it is, if you have 5 or 6 of them, you can change your you can develop the ideas across that group of work, rather than having to try to pile everything into one thing. I mean, if you've got others in this, is it just this one that you've got, or do you have? Oh no,
I have a bunch of these.
Yeah. So you can just kind of try different things out. So, but again, I think just as I was saying to was it Claire about the marks, the drawing marks? Maybe that's what this needs as well. Maybe it could do with something like that, because a lot of these shapes
took them all out.
Yeah, we worked. They're there. They're just underneath, right?
I just covered them all up.
Bring some of them back. Yeah, because a lot of these shapes are similar.
If you go look at the other versions, you'll see them in there.
Yeah.
I was so proud of my drawing marks, and then I was like, "Oh, I think it's too busy."
Oh, you got some bits here and some bits here. Yeah. Yeah, because I think I was just saying that a lot of these shapes are quite a similar size, aren't they? There's this shape here and this shape here and this shape here and this. And I think having some maybe bigger, they could be bigger drawn marks. They don't have to be quite as fine as this. Maybe some, quite big kind of crayon type marks,
Okay.
Something like that, where you can make marks which will tie the shapes together. And also it will help to lead your eye around the image. So if you had some sort of more linear marks that were sort of doing this sort of thing, looping around through the image, it would help, when you're looking at it, it would help you to kind of follow, your eye to follow it, and it sort of links the image together, and maybe it will make it feel a little bit more like a one thing, because at the moment it feels a little bit patchy, doesn't it? It's got bits. Well, no, it doesn't. Yeah. That's not even at the moment, is it? No, this is at the moment. It's like there's a bit here and a bit here and a bit here, but it doesn't kind of hang together. So maybe these large drawn marks would help to just give a bit of rhythm to the image. Yeah.
It's struggling. That's this little thing. It's struggling.
If you've got a whole group of them, you could put them next to each other and draw across the whole lot of them, so that you're not.
That's a great idea.
Because then you're taking marks out of the edge as well, so it's not going to be so contained. It's actually going to be taking marks away off the edge and maybe back in, give a sense of something happening outside of the physical borders of the image. Yeah, that when you try that, put them just next to each other, and you could also turn them around and have them not around the right way, or do a bit and then change the order of them and do some more, that kind of thing. So like we've been saying all along, you're in control, but you're taking some of the control away as well. Just adds that little bit of randomness, can lift it. And also when you see something that's slightly unexpected, it makes you gotta make you yeah, it looks good like that.
This one too. Yeah.
I like the colors. What's it? Oh, is this the updated version?
Yeah, the one below is updated. Yeah.
Yeah, this one. Yeah. Yeah, colors are great, and I like the scale of these marks, the brush marks. In relation to the size of the piece. They're nice bold strokes on there. So,
can I ask how big they are?
That's just a 12 inch by 12 inch. So I don't know what that is in centimeters, but
30. Yeah,
30.
About 30 centimeters. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I find that I'm really good at is creating all the textured, confusing backgrounds from the course. And then I find the challenge is what is going to be the main thing. And so
looking for some focus. Yeah.
Yep. And so I found that coming back in with the white has been really helpful. But my new intention for, especially on these small ones, is to set kind of what a focus could be, because I get really good at the background.
Yeah.
And then I end up with these fantastically very busy backgrounds, but I lose.
I mean,
focus.
what can be really good, and particularly we've got this idea of the diary, the weather diary. It's quite a simple idea, the idea of it being about the weather. So what I find useful when I'm painting is to have quite a simple idea for each painting, just a single idea. So you could say that this painting, because it is about the rain, it's just about the way the rain is coming down hard. I know it's not in this painting, but so that, for example, so this painting is about the rain coming down hard. So that's the subject of the painting may be looking out of my studio window or sitting outside, and there might be trees and grass and a river or something like that, but the theme of the painting is the rain coming down hard. And so you've always got that simple idea that when you're not quite sure where it's going, you can come back to it. So I always think it's really useful just to pick something simple that you can always return to. And even with the studio work, the big studio work, I try and do that as well. So just pick a nice simple theme. Those two things are quite different. The subject of the painting can be the sea or the river or mountains or whatever, but the theme of the painting can be slightly different, and it can be slightly more ethereal, but something nice and simple, like
that's brilliant.
A crashing wave. It's a really simple idea. The painting can be quite complex, but the idea can be quite simple, and it just really helps you focus what it's about.
That's really helpful.
Yeah,
it's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. So I think we'll probably leave it there if that's okay. So lovely. Thank you very much. No, I thought that was a really good talk. I thought there were some really interesting ideas came out of it, and usually I go through people's work and I kind of pick things out, and because I know that it's not just about you. It is about you, obviously, but it's about finding things that we can talk about that will benefit everyone on the group. So, and I think there's definitely, in here, I think there's definitely been lots of that